Okay, hello everyone. I'm happy to see you today and welcome to another very exciting episode of Ibi Speaks. Um, Today we're going to talk about something that means so much to me. And it's something that is very dear to my heart. And it is we're talking about the Japa. It's the Japa series I just started. And for those people who are wondering what Japa is a Yoruba term that means to escape. So so the Japa phrase was coined out of the fact that a lot of Nigerians are leaving the country and traveling abroad to greener pastures. And this is not the first time Nigerians are traveling. We had the brain drain in the 90s. We had I don't know if everyone would remember when we had Andrew was checking out. I remember I was little at the time when Andrew was checking out, and there was this advert then that said, I'm checking out, But today it appears that there's something that is different about this. A lot of people are running away. A lot of people are escaping. And there is an underbelly to this. There is an underbelly of migration, of relocation that a lot of people don't know. And I think this morning in my Facebook, and I think I also posted it on my WhatsApp screen, I said something on my WhatsApp status. I said, and I spoke in Pidgin English, because that's the only way that I can really express myself, that Japa be like secret cult. Say, they know they tell you everything finish until you reach there. Now, when you don't reach there, now your eye go clear. So it better make you follow people where no road, because the thing no be easy thing. And a lot of people have gone, they've experienced it. And I can tell you that it is an experience that is humbling. And if you get it right, you would live in the opportunities that it offers. But if you don't get it right, you could, in addition to losing yourself, you could lose your family, and you could also return home empty-handed. A lot of people have lost their children, have lost their mental health, have lost their families and their marriages in the process, and they just can't come home because they have nothing to offer. And to talk about this conversation that is the beginning of the Japa series are four people who I believe are grounded in the experience. They've lived in Nigeria, they've lived abroad, and they have a well-rounded experience to share. So I just want to thank my guests today, Abilo and Debo from Canada. Abilo?
Hi, sorry, I was muted. Hi, hello.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you. David Obaseki from Canada.
Hey, hi, how are you? How's everybody?
Yeah,
good.
Thank you. And Ibinabo Ogan from the United Kingdom.
Hi, everyone. Nice to be here. Thank you for the lovely introduction.
Thank you. And my guests, my viewers, I want to thank you very much. And you can feel free to be a part of this conversation by leaving your comments in the comments section. If you're watching via YouTube, watching via Facebook, my profile on my page, or on LinkedIn. And I would read out your questions and my guests would answer you. And listen, do yourself a favor and do me a favor, please. If you know anyone who is getting ready or planning to Japa, please just send them this link and tell them about this program. Because what you're going to hear today are the things that your immigration consultant or your Canada consultant or your UK relocation consultant would not tell you. You're going to hear things from the horse's mouth. And these guys are going to tell you the truth. So please, thank you. Do that, do that, do that. Yeah. So, guys, are you ready?
Yes.
Yep.
Perfect. Yep. So I want to ask the first question, right? Now, a lot of us look at Nigeria and we say, or you're not a Nigerian, you're from Ghana, from South Africa, from everywhere, and you look at yourself and you say, you've had enough of your country. And every day, and rightly so, you look at the things that are not working, the failure of the government, the failure of the private sectors, of the educational sector, insecurity and all of that, and you say to yourself, I've got to check out of this place. But a lot of people check out without asking themselves the critical questions. So I'll throw it open to all of you. Is it important to ask yourself critical questions before you leave the shores of your country? And if it is, what kind of question should you ask yourself? Seki, I'll start with you.
Okay, so thank you very much. Thanks for having me here too. So yeah, first thing that you need to have the conviction, right? Like you said, there has to be a conviction as to what you want to do. Yeah, you want to move out of the country, you want to move to Canada, you want to move to UK, Australia, wherever. There has to be that conviction because that's what basically drives the process for you. People kind of like go with the bandwagon, right? Everybody wants to do it. I want to do it, the same thing, but everybody doesn't have the same experiences. You won't go to Canada and have the same experiences. So that first and foremost has to be the guiding fact for you that you need to go, and why do you need to go? Yeah, so they have various pathways, right? They have lots of pathways for you to be able to go. You're qualified. Your training kind of like gives you an edge. Your age, what do you want to do there when you get there? How much do you want to contribute to the economy of the country where you're moving to? So those are factors that you have to factor in first. You have to think first. How is this going to impact my going over there? I know lots of people who work in high-end jobs in Nigeria, banking jobs and the rest of them, and they've had to move. So for me, I wouldn't look at it from the perspective of the economy. I'll look at it from the perspective of what they want to achieve in life, in terms of their kids. Most people I've had to speak with, always say one thing: I'm moving here because of my kids. I'm moving here because of my kids. They want to be able to give the kids a better form of living, like compared to what they have in Nigeria. If it's economical, of course they're making good money. They're doing quite well. They're living in good places. So that shouldn't be a factor for you to move. But like you mentioned, there has to be that conviction. For me, that's it. I have lots of people who send me mails or send me chats and say they want to move and all that, and you give them kind of like guide them. And the next couple of minutes or the next few months, you don't hear anything from them. It's all gone quiet. And then you're wondering what's going on. And then maybe like a year after, you'd come back to you and say, hey, that thing I talked to you about, I really want to do something about it now. And then it just makes you feel like, are you serious? If you need to put anything in, it has to be from the back end. I'm a Christian. One of the things that guides my move, all my actions is that I'm convinced this is what the Lord wants from me. And then, of course, that's also obtained in place of prayer, right? You pray, you want to find out what exactly the Lord has for you and what's your plan. You get that all fixed up first. And then when you want to get there, what do you want to go do there? You have to then follow through that process. If you're not sure, then that's where the problem starts. That's where the problem starts. I'll let that go for now. Let somebody else jump in.
Thank you very much, Seki, for that. Sorry, I call you Seki.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I know, no worries.
Yes, so thank you very much for that. And Abilo and Debo, Did you ask yourself critical questions before you decided to relocate to Canada?
I think for us, it was a stumble on, because the notion that Nigeria was choking us was not really our reality. Not because we didn't want to, we just wanted to open up our options. Debo had moved back from the US a couple of years before we had moved. So he had been out of Nigeria for a little over 10 years. And he was the first person who sold the idea to me when we were still even dating. And I wasn't really sold on it because, hey, we were both working stable jobs at the time, and Nigeria wasn't bad for us. It wasn't the best, but it wasn't bad. So we were not, Japa is a little extreme for our situation. We're just kind of, just trying to open up our options. So I wasn't really feeling it in the first place. And then he came back, and then we got married, and we both decided that, look, when we just weighed some factors, and we're just like, you know what, let's just open up our options as opposed to just staying put. So there are different factors to play in your head as to your reason for moving. Nigeria may be tough, but the move is not really for everybody. It's I don't know. You just have to come to a place of what exactly do you want to get out of where you're going to, So if you are having, for instance, I know David mentioned children. People are opening their options and they're doing it to create better opportunities for their kids. That's okay. People still have, there are good opportunities for kids that grew up in Nigeria. I moved to Nigeria as an adult. So I grew up as a kid in Nigeria. So I don't know. It's just, I cannot write it out for everyone. I cannot generalize the reasons. But for the most part, I know that the underlying factor is just for better opportunities. That I can say is a motivating factor why some people might want to move. So that's what I have said about.
Yeah, so for me, I'm an engineer, and I'm, always analyzing. I look at various factors. How old am I? First of all, am I married? What am I trying to achieve where I'm going? How much money do I have? If I'm going to have kids there, is it better for me to keep them in Nigeria or not? Bearing in mind that, the environment we're in, I'm speaking about Nigeria specifically, there's been a lot of uncertainty since probably the 80s, 90s, 2000s. When I was in primary or secondary school, my parents would have chose to keep me in Nigeria because there was good education, good teachers, good benefits policies for government workers. And so there was no impetus or reason to move your family abroad. In a current environment where there's heightened corruption, leaders are just being changed every 4 to 8 years, you really don't know the direction the country is going. The global environment is now very nomadic, in the sense that 5 years you could be in the US, another 5 years you could be in the UK. And so you just kind of have to have a global mindset and understand what the economic conditions are wherever you are, and allow that to tailor your need. If you're financially buoyant and you have enough money to move your family, it might be something you want to consider, and if your funds are very tight or stringent, then you're not in a position to do that. So.
Fantastic, Debo. Thank you so much. I love the way you said that the global environment is very nomadic. It's very interesting. I love that. Thank you so much. So, Ibinabo, you were born in the UK and you came to Nigeria to do your nursery, primary, secondary, and your university. And then you returned to the UK as an adult, and you came back again, and then to do your second university degree and your master's. So you've had a balanced, view of Nigeria and then of the UK. So I'd want to ask you, when you came to the UK, in fact, you came back from the UK back to Nigeria and then came again. So did you ask yourself any questions as to why you made that third missionary journey back to the United States? Sorry, she's my niece. I know about her. That's why I've just said everything. So did you did you have an epiphany, or what was it that made you do that third missionary journey?
Right, a great question. So for me, to be honest, the first time I came to the UK, I didn't have a choice. In fact, I was enjoying my life in Nigeria. I was a Unilag student, and anybody who knows university life in Nigeria knows how much fun it is. So I was pulled out in I was going to my second year Unilag, and my mom said, okay, she wasn't having a great time in Nigeria at the time, and she wanted us to move. So I struggled. I have to say, I struggled mentally, and emotionally, because I had a very great support system back there. I had great friends, and so I found myself being very nostalgic and always having a pity party about being in the UK. So anyway, I think that was actually the reason why I found my way back to Nigeria after a number of years, because I felt like this wasn't the right place for me, and my friends were doing, fairly okay. They finished their NYSC. I was seeing pictures and they looked, really happy. And the Nigerian music scene was popping. So it gave an impression that the country was moving upward. And this was about 2007 or so, around that time, where things were looking up, we were in a democratic environment again. It was just looking better. So when I moved back there, it was okay from the start. And then, when you go to Nigeria as a visitor, when you first come in, it's very different from when you start to actually live there. So when you first come, everybody's expecting you. There's a lot, there's just there's the gendered vibe about you. But when the reality of life starts to set in, when you have to actually start buying petrol, going to the market, doing the everyday things, you have to, because I didn't have a car at the time, so I had to, get on the buses, also look for a job. It was very, very tough. I mean, like, when you come into the UK, you can literally get a job as long as you have the right documents in a matter of weeks, depending on what you want to do. At least you can start to be able to fend for yourself. But back there is very different. So it was so tough that I literally bought myself a one-way ticket out of Nigeria. And I remember finding my way out of Nigeria. I was wearing the slippers. I could only afford myself a 5K slippers. And I just literally got to the airport and I was like, I just need to get out of this shithole. And yeah, so having experienced Nigeria as an adult was what made me realize that it was, even though I always said Nigeria was fun at night and a graveyard in the day. So I had fun, generally sometimes, but the reality of it, everyday living was very, very tough. I really struggled with the past situation as well. Just not something as basic. Living in the UK, just come home and put the light on and it's working. And then, in Nigeria, for you to just have your light on throughout the night is a hassle. I couldn't understand it. So honestly, when I found my way out, it was just heaven. I mean, I won't say, being abroad is paradise, but, just basic everyday living, it's a lot easier here. Life here treats you like a human being, so that was my reason. I just found it very difficult to survive. I think my basic needs weren't being met.
Okay, so thank you very much, Ivy, for that. But so I want to throw this question to you, but so if somebody is experiencing the downside of Nigeria in terms of like having it difficult to live day to day and they want to relocate, what do you think is the question that they should be asking themselves before they relocate? Because, you've said very good things. You've said that, the environment here is supportive of human existence. I mean, I'm just saying that paraphrasing, but you and I also know that there is an underbelly of living abroad, that
of course
there is the dark side of it. And that if you come with the perception or the idea that you're coming to heaven, and then you get here and you face reality, it can be very heartbreaking. So assuming somebody is listening to you and they are contemplating relocating overseas, what kind of questions would you ask them to ask themselves?
Sorry, Eghosa. Ironically, I had a friend who is in the same situation. So she wanted to travel. And the first things first I asked her is, what do you want to do when, how, I think I'd say, have you given everything you possibly can give to make it work in Nigeria? That's the first question I'll ask myself. Where is the way out here? Have I explored every option? Have I explored, a family? Have I asked around? Have I tried to look for work? Have I, do I have a support system outside of Nigeria? I think for me, that's very important. I know people have been, going to countries where they felt afraid and build their network around there. But for me, I think it's important for me to have a base wherever I'm going. So I would ask, do I have a network out there? Have I done everything I possibly can to make it work here? And what am I going to do when I get there? It's just having a basic idea of where to start from, I think, is very important, because you really do have to have a starting place. It's not, I speak personally for the UK. I know a lot of people have found their way, but I feel like it's easier to have a starting point. And the reason why I mentioned the girl I talked about is because she studied a very generic course in Nigeria that, is not going to give her a lot of opportunities here. So we're exploring, her studying nursing when she comes here, but she didn't even have any background. She didn't even have any science subjects or anything. So we're thinking, how can she position herself for when she gets here to have an easier start in? And so she actually went to write GCSEs to be able to get, while she was working on saving money and all that, to start building her portfolio to get into nursing. So yes, it's really about what you already have. Have you explored every option back there? And are you ready to start from ground zero up in a country that you don't know anybody, or is there a network wherever you're going? Because you definitely need a support system, at least for the first week or so, to help you, have it. Maybe not even a week, maybe probably 6 months, somewhere to start a base to start from, because it's a lot tougher, when you haven't got accommodation.
Fantastic, Ibi. Thank you so much. I'm taking notes.
Does that answer the question?
It does answer the question, because the question that you said is, the question that you said they should ask themselves is, are you ready to start from ground zero up? Because a lot of times your experiences and your qualifications don't cut it. Sometimes they want you to have their own experiences, no matter how small, and then you can climb from there. Yeah. So Ibi, thank you very much. Now, the next question I want to throw at us is the importance of research. And Seki, you and I had this conversation and we talked about the importance of research, because a lot of people, because you said, that, this is behind the scenes while we're having this conversation. And you said that, that a lot of people don't do research. In terms of research, it's like, okay, if I come, what would I do? If I come, you said to me that there is a data of information that people need to unearth. Yep. And that even when you came, despite that you had done a tremendous amount of research, you said you felt that you hadn't even scratched the surface. So if there's anyone who is thinking about traveling or relocating, first, you have to ask yourself the question, why do I want to come? What is my conviction? Second, you have to ask yourself the question, are you ready to start from ground zero up? Do you have the support that you need to survive in the first 6 months or thereabout? So, and then the next thing would be your research. Have you done your research? So Seki, what's the importance of doing extensive research before you think about relocating?
Okay, so first off, I just want to say about starting from ground zero. So that's subjective. That's basically that some people don't start from ground zero, right? So it all depends on what preparation you put on the ground even before you leave. First and foremost, like, you're like Debo said, he is an engineer. He's been in the US and they moved back to Nigeria and they moved here. He definitely can't start from ground zero. So the point there is you need to make those preparations ahead of time. For instance, if you're coming to Canada, if you say you're coming to Canada and you're possibly maybe, I don't know what, maybe like yeah, no, because like a doctor, for instance, you can't just come straight from Nigeria to Canada and start practicing, right? So you need to do some maybe not the doctor, maybe that's not the right
No, doctors need to do
but there
qualification
has to be,
exams.
yeah, I know, right, in Canada, yeah, that's what I'm saying, maybe that's not the right one to use. But if you're into any kind of profession, there has to be some preparation before you even leave Nigeria. I tell people right now that, look, if you're thinking of coming, take some courses, take some online courses that are Canada recognized, right? So that kind of helps you. Once you get in here, it doesn't mean that you have to go start from, I know people who've been in here in a few months, they'll start working in good companies. They start making six-figure salaries, so it doesn't have to be from ground zero. You make all your preparations, and I'm really stressing on that part about the preparations. You need to do that seriously before you leave. It depends on where you're going. So look for, first and foremost, where am I going? Is it Canada? Is it Australia? Is it New Zealand? Is it UK? And what do these places offer in terms of requirements for me to be able to start off? So that is key. Now we'll go into research. Like I told you back end, see, we did a lot of research. My wife was actually like the chief researcher. She will go to work, come back, prepare food for the kids, prepare food for the house. And then because of the time difference, she stays up till 2 a.m. still, checking out things, communicating with people and all that, and trying to get some data. Now, the Canada Immigration Service, they have a website. It is so vast with information, all right? So even if some people, I tell them, if you want to do this with a consultant, fine. If you want to do it alone, all alone, I want to go it alone, it's fine. But the information you need is all in there. People call you from Nigeria and say, how do you do this? I got a call recently and this person was asking me, what's the living standard in Burlington compared to Mississauga? I was like, come on, these things are on the side. You all you just need to do is go in there. It gives you, if you're looking to move to Ontario, for instance, all the municipalities in Ontario, it gives you all that data to the point of which place is much more crime ridden, where is safest, how do you get, where is the standard of living. Everything is in there, but they expect you to be the one to do that research for them. And that's where the problem is, because when you do that, you give them subjective answers, and they come in and they see totally different stuff. And they're like, it's like if you just drop them in the middle of the ocean or something, and they don't know what to do because they are hit with several things. Like I told you, we did a lot. We did a lot of research. We used a consultant, but even with that, and then there was this place, I don't know if people still do that. It's called International Organization for Migration. We had like a whole session on a Saturday from morning till about late evening, telling you basically everything about Canada, each region, each province, everything. They gave us all that information, but that's still not enough because you have to have your information yourself. So the key thing is your research doesn't even stop. It doesn't even stop. You still have to continue to look for information as to guide you to where you want to go. So when you get in, yeah, there's still the cultural shock thing. There's still that period of adjustment, but it won't hit you as much as it will hit somebody who didn't do anything. It just jumps in and plane and comes into Canada and says, this is the land of milk and honey. And then you get hit by all the realities that comes to you. So I cannot say enough of the research part. You need to do a lot of research. If you don't do it, you get hit. And that's the truth. Thanks.
Well, thank you very much, Seki. And Ibi?
So what I was going to say was that when I said the word ground zero, and I completely agree with you, Seki, with everything you said, but I think sometimes people tend to put aside the emotional, spiritual side of things. Obviously we're all coming for economic reasons, but ground zero literally means you've got to build everything up from scratch. It's like a house, like a foundation. And in that foundation, you need your career, goals. You know, there's a financial part of it, but there's also the emotional, the spiritual side of it as well. There is, if you have children, you know, you might need some support system around you. So I really, and I think hopefully we'll get to that point where a lot of people come chasing the money here, and then they think that's all that there is to it. But you know, there's a lot of depression and sadness and, you know, melancholy that comes with the experience, just because they are understated how important it is to have those other factors considered in their plans as they travel. You know, that's why I was raising my hand.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ibi, for that clarification. So I'm going to ask you the question now, Ibi. What's the importance of having to do extensive research before you come to the UK? You mentioned something about a friend of yours that was thinking about coming, and you talked about, you know, maybe she should do nursing or stuff like that. So assuming there's somebody who is thinking actively about relocating to the UK, what kind of research should they do?
Oh, perfect. So I think number one, I think the career part, definitely, because you know, the finances are becoming bigger and bigger in everyday life. I mean, there's a cost of living crisis. So really thinking about what it is that this current skill sets that they have, and where is that they can have the most value. So, well, you know, my sister just relocated, for example, and she studied theater arts in Nigeria, and she went on to work in development, so in the NGO space back then. But when we're thinking about what she could potentially do here, considering her age and how much time she has, you know, left, and you know, what she wants to be in at a certain age, we thought that the AI and the data analysis space would be the best place for her. And luckily, and I think one important website is to look at where the skill and gaps and shortages are in the UK, because that kind of like, and that helps to understand where the money is really. So there was also scholarships available in those areas as well, because the UK funds education in those spaces where they have a skill gap in. So I think really thinking about how much time you have, what current skill set you have left, how hard you are willing to work to bridge the gap between where you are and where you want to go. It's very critical. Then I would personally look at, again, my network. You know, I really don't see the value in, and some people don't mind because they want to be far away from everybody else, you know, so they want to be in Edinburgh, but you have family in the UK. It's fine, but think about who you are as a person and what works best for you. You want to be closer to family, or you want to go far off. So those kind of things to consider as well. Some people, I mean, thank God for online churches now. So some people, they probably want to be near the churches that they like. So that you might want to look at location, you want to look at, you know, your career, your skill sets. And then what else? Again, translating from your visa status to you know, sponsorship. Those kind of things are also very important to consider as well. I know that nursing is quite good for being able to translate into a more permanent work permit, because there's just the shortage is there, and there's the pipeline is there as well. And for other skill sets, maybe not so easy, but it is available. So I think I know of people who have even been recruited from Nigeria because they're IT gurus. So really thinking about your skill sets and how you can apply yourself is very important. I mean, one thing I have to emphasize is that I see UK as a global is a very competitive country. I mean, there are people from all over the world, China, you know, Indonesia, everywhere, India, all in this environment competing for the same spot. So, you know, you really have to be ready to put in the work. But if you're ready to do the work, the opportunities are vast, and they're there.
Ibi, thank you so much. You talked about doing the research about the career gaps, the skill gaps, and where the skill gaps and shortages are. And the visa, I think another thing again, which you nailed, which is very important, is this visa conversion.
Pipeline. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's a very important thing that you've mentioned. So guys, if you're thinking about going to the UK, think about the career gaps, think about the shortages. So you have to think in terms of skills and education. Abilo and Debo, you recently relocated to Canada. And so yours is still very fresh it's still very freshly imprinted in your mind. So what questions, what research would you do if you had to, okay, let me put it this way. So were you on point with your research And if you weren't, what would you do differently? And if you were, what were the things that you did that were successful and you would like other people to know about?
Okay, I think we talked about it earlier. I think David mentioned this, research and preparation. For me, I had already done my supply chain certification before I came. I would say I spent over $2,500 on certifications before I came to Canada. The year before I came to Canada, I also paid for mentorship. This is for me who has already lived in the US and had the North American experience. So I would say I even went over and beyond. So I did the exams, I got some mentorship. Mentor told me you need to do the PMP exam to diversify your skill set. So I did the PMP literally a month before I came to Canada. So when I arrived here, I was already well equipped. I knew because I had that North American experience, I wasn't really coming here as a newcomer. I had worked in North America, understood the culture and all the climate and how politics in the workplace goes. So I came in and was able to plug in, reaching out to people on LinkedIn, talking to old schoolmates, talking to friends from secondary school, from college, wherever, and really just throwing my tentacles out there. And I think the most important thing is really not to have one formula. You have to have a multifaceted approach because you don't know where God is leading you. He might be telling you to talk to this person. It might be a random recruiter you reach out to that gets you the job. It might be a friend from school. It might be somebody from church. It might be your neighbor that lives two houses away from you. So really just having a multifaceted approach and doing everything, knowing that you've already done your hard work, and surely as you move along, your success should come.
Fantastic. So it has to be an intentional and a targeted and a strategic decision. Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. Abilo.
Well, I was sort of riding off of him because we're coming here as a unit. So, you know, it was crazy. Every day he was reading something, sending me links. Abilo, you should check this out. Abilo, you should do this. So he had done so much research, to the extent that it was even beginning to drive me crazy at some point, how much information he had. It was like an ongoing. I don't think there was any day that we didn't probably just speak about something to do with Canada where we were. And like David said, even the simple things like even the application itself, because Nigerians are not very used to, we don't have a DIY culture. So we just like to outsource, yes. Yeah. So even the simple things as that, we were both, when we did the application together, he will do all the research and tell me where to go looking for stuff. So everything was available online. So even the application itself, we did it ourselves. We didn't need anybody. We didn't need any agent. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. Mm-hmm. So I was comfortable enough knowing that he had done all the research and he was, seeking out information that was going to be helpful to us. He came ahead of time, so that was one of the things. If it's a couple relationship, because I know there are single people who also like to relocate, but if ahead of time, you can have some leeway. So he came ahead of time just to set the background so that when I had come, the house was here, the car was here. The basic things, because if you don't live in a district or in an area where there's transportation and it's easy to move around, you need a car. So those are the kind of information and the sort of nuggets I had already sort of ironed out for us ahead of time, But even in that, I think to a large extent for me, all that preparation, it's the mindset that just be as open as possible, because the experience itself is not, you can anticipate it, but until you live it, you don't really know how much of it is going to hit you and how it will be. I'm very family oriented. I've never lived apart from my family, before. We have always been in the same area. So that was a bit of a struggle for me. That was a bit of a problem for me. And also that I came here pregnant. So there was a lot of emotions and different things I was dealing with at the time, So it wasn't a shock as such, but I think next time my preparation will probably be to not to lower my expectations a bit, lower my expectations. And this is not to say don't dream big, or I'm not, knocking down anybody who comes here with gusto and just wants to. So I'll probably lower my expectations a bit, because even as we kept going along, just various things, applying for a job, settling, getting information, knowing these, some things were just so confusing. It was as if I was supposed to swallow a lot of information at once. I didn't know that it will all come together, but when I came, I wasn't prepared for many of the adjustments that were required to make. And even from another side of things, when we're both in Nigeria, we had somebody come clean the house. We had, there was help, just all those other issues that you don't really have to deal with. So here, of course, basic things, power is stable, so you don't really have to deal with all those things that might be confusing. For the most part, cleaning of the house, we even had a smaller house in Nigeria, and somebody was coming to spend her whole day to clean it. But now we have to figure it out. We have to figure out how we're going to eat. You get all those basic things that will just eat into your time. So those are the sort of things I didn't really know how much of do-it-yourself was going to be required of me. So maybe next time, I would lower my expectations as well. So.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Abilo, for that. I have a few comments in the comment box here, and I will read it. And there's also a question as well. Somebody said, I think 90% of the reasons why most of us people move or would like to move overseas is as a result of the harsh, tough economy. Running a business or getting a job to survive is a nightmare, coupled with insecurity and a lot of uncertainties also fuel the drive for people to Japa. Personally, I wouldn't want to move from Nigeria if the economy and environment is supportive. I have exhausted all options to stay back and make things work here in Nigeria. As it is, I am over 100% searching for escape from Nigeria. Please suggest certifications for supply chain professionals. And Abilo, you said CSCP is the easiest route if you already have MCIPS from the UK.
That was Debo.
Okay.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I should have changed the name of that account to read Abby, but that's Debo. I think that's his area.
Yeah. Thank you very much for that. And Abilo, for me, I'm even just surprised that with the extent of the research you guys did at home in Nigeria, I mean, Debo was like, on top of the research, you still had problems, settling in and just with it. So for someone who is listening, what were those kind of things that threw you off a bit? You talked about, of course, the the do-it-yourself, like having to clean the house, but in terms of like things that you needed to know, the information you needed to have, what were they, if you don't mind sharing?
So another thing is, job-wise, I had worked as a generalist in a government institution before I moved here. So I didn't really have a career path. I had several conversations with different people as to how to, I didn't really want to lose what I had done, because every workplace, every skill is sort of transferable. There are some basic skills that are just transferable to everyone. But for the most part, Debo was more.
Sorry, Abilo, just give me a second. I'm trying to mute. Sophie, please, do you mind just mute it? Okay, 1 second.
Shut the door, please.
You can mute them.
Okay. Abilo, just give me a second. I would, please unmute yourself, Abilo.
Yeah, done.
Seki, please unmute yourself. And Ibi, please unmute yourself. Okay.
Yeah, done.
Okay, thank you. So
one of the things I would probably have done was to sort of join him, to have probably gotten it, because he did, in his defense, so many times he kept saying, I'm doing this, I have a career coach, it's really helpful, I think you need one. I probably didn't see, he was right, and I probably didn't see it his way almost immediately. And when I came here, I know it was a bit of a struggle to sort of, when you speak to other people who were here, the initial question was, or the immediate question was, oh, what's your career path? Or what are you, so I didn't really have I didn't know how to answer those questions because, to be honest, I really didn't have a career path. And so I had struggled a bit, to try and figure out what exactly is it that I want to do in Canada. And I didn't answer that question before I came, which was a mistake. I should probably have been able to answer that and be able to spell it out and to be able to organize it in a way that will have been transferable upon coming here, either by way of doing the exam, either by way of talking to people already in that field, just trying to get information, generally speaking. It did happen eventually, but, for the length of time, I probably would have been in a better spot if I had been able to answer those questions ahead of time. So those are some of the expectations, some of the things I probably should have handled before coming. You want to jump?
Yeah, I think one of the other major ones is asking questions. I know a lot of the times in Nigeria, we like to make assumptions and we think that, okay, I'm 35 years old, I'm 40 years old, I have 10 years of experience.
Why did you use my age?
Therefore, well, I did say 40 years old. Yeah. So therefore, I've worked for 8 years in my home country. I am a manager. I've managed 5 people. I know what I'm doing. When you get here, I think I remember one time, Abby had an doctor's appointment, and I was like, confirm. And she's like, well, I'm supposed to go to the clinic. I'm like, it might be a phone call. I think it was right after the COVID period was dying. I said, can you confirm if it's going to be on the phone or in office? Just because they say you have an appointment doesn't mean you're going to have to drive 20 minutes to the doctor's office. So she was like, oh, I'm supposed to go to the clinic. And then she ended up calling and found out that it was a virtual call on the phone, So lots of things like that, just asking questions. I think a lot of the times we're afraid to say the wrong thing. And just being able to be 100% sure. It could be for a job search. Sometimes recruiter says, call me at 2 p.m. And you're like, well, I thought you were supposed to call me. So always trying to confirm little details, because those are the things where, it could make or break you going forward. So
I think I agree completely. That's one thing, because so I may be digressing, but the culture shock is actually
I was going to ask you about the culture shock.
Yeah,
it just hits you in different, it's not as if it's one big thing, but you just realize that actually there's a lot of Nigerian in me, that not wanting to make mistakes, just always. And I think it's just because of if you speak to kids who are here, very assertive. They're willing to, they ask you questions, they probe. There's just they're not used to
being shielded,
so they're used. But meanwhile, in Nigeria, it's almost like you want to speak and make sure that what you're saying is the correct thing. You're not used to maybe always clarifying. Even in my workspace, there's just no stupid question.
Or being corrected.
It's actually, in fact, they love questions like, oh, please ask me, clarify. If you're not sure about something, clarify. And for me, that was like, okay, are we not supposed to know these things? So those are some of the just one of the culture shock.
I think back home, right? When you ask questions too much, it's like you're all there. It's like we want to all act smart. We're very smart. Everything.
Yeah.
So when you ask questions, it's like, waiting, they even worry. So you're supposed to get sense.
Yeah.
Common sense is not common. You're supposed to know. So we shame.
Exactly.
We shame.
No, but that's ingrained in our education system and our culture. Because I remember when I was in university in Nigeria, the lecturer said to us clearly, said, the way to pass this course is to regurgitate. And the way he would say it, to say, regurgitate exactly what I say and pass. So literally, when he's talking, everybody writes what he says verbatim and tries to deliver exactly what he says. So the more you're able to clone him, the better grades you have. But when you bring the attitude to the, I'm sure, Canadian or the UK educational setting, first of all, that's a fail. You have to extend. You have to go beyond. The education is about guiding, prompting you, teaching you how to think for yourself. So we're not taught how to think for ourselves. And in fact, if our children, I think, that's another culture shock, which probably a lot of people are going to have the way our children will be raised here, is that because you're told to speak only when you're spoken to and only say wise things, when your children actually start to behave more like the typical children in the way they are taught to behave, it's a big shock. Talking back, wanting answers. Why did you do what you did? Mom will say to me, "Mommy, can you explain to me why you did what you did?" And I'll be like, "What? How come? How are you questioning me? You dare not ask the question when you were, raised in Nigeria." But that can be a shock, I suppose. So there's a lot to come for a lot of people who've just joined, who just Japan.
So in the coming episodes of Ibi Speaks, we're going to talk about children. We're going to talk about
perfect.
Shock, the work culture. And Debo, you said
on the lineup for that.
I do.
It looks like we prepared that already.
Hey. Okay, let's talk about, you're here now. So let's talk about the work culture shock. Debo?
Yeah.
The work culture shock. You know why I think it's important, yeah? It's important because a lot of times, like when I'm working, my phone is not with me. Even if I have my phone, like I can't post on social media in my working hours, and everything has to be, you meet up with your deadlines, you do what you're told. My friend can't come and visit me in my working place. Like my friend can't call me on my office line and then we're gisting away. It's not possible. So what are the things that we have to like dump from our work culture if we want to really succeed? What are the things that are workably unacceptable overseas?
I think overseas, you have to respect personal space. So I don't start the job and saying, "Oh, how many kids do you have? Boy or girl? How old is your boy? What school does he go to?" Those are considered intrusive questions. So unless the person is revealing that information to you, it's best to leave all those discussions off topic. When do you plan to get pregnant? Have you had kids before? What are your thoughts on gay rights? Are you for or against? Those are no-nos. And in some cases, you could really get fired or reprimanded in the workplace. Another thing I would say is just being proactive. Some companies do a full onboarding, 2-3 weeks. They give you the whole gamut of training. Some companies in your first week, they just send you a dump of emails and documents and tell you to come up to speed. So it's left to you to decide who you need to set up touch point meetings with. The person that did the role previously, set up the meetings, understand what you're supposed to do. You shouldn't wait for your manager to say, "Have you called this person to learn about what we did last year?" If you say no to them, it's considered, "Well, I'm paying you to be able to reach out to these people, but you're not doing that." So another thing you'd see is question mark. Someone would say, "Am I going to see you today?" Question mark, right? They expect you to respond to that email. Sometimes you could see that question mark as a rhetorical question. Say, "Oh, am I expecting to see you today?" Maybe I don't need to answer that. Anytime you see a question mark, at least in Canada, you're supposed to answer the question. You're supposed to respond to the person. I know most people struggle with that. They're like, "Well, they didn't explicitly tell me that in the email." So those are some of the nuances you get to see. There's also a lot of corporate politics, microaggressions, people who don't like your color, you're brown, you're black, you're Caucasian, you're this. So you need to be able to read the subtle body language, comments, people leaving you out of meetings. Sometimes it can be toxic, and you need to know how to also play the corporate game, because the reality is you're coming to a new environment. This is not your country. Some people don't even want you here. They think you're taking their opportunities, their resources, and you just have to be mindful of that and respect the work environment as much as possible.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Debo, for that. Seki, what about the shock?
Yeah, well, Abi said it very well. There's no, how do I say now? Like we talked about preparation, right? But when you get in, that's where some of the shocks come in, right? So you can't be too prepared for the shocks, but expect that you're not going to be getting everything that you get when you are in Nigeria. Like she mentioned, you have a house, that you have housemates, you have a guard, you have this, you have a driver and all that. That's not going to happen. It's just going to be you, yourself, yourself, right? And like things like you have to shovel the snow in the driveway. That's your responsibility. You're not even do that. You have to even shovel the snow in the walkway of the street. That's your responsibility. If you don't do that, the municipality gets to fine you for doing that. So there are little things like that that needs to be understood. The basic thing is being open-minded. Like she mentioned, you have to ask questions. Questions. You have to have like a web of resources. Now, people coming into the country have a variety of email, WhatsApp groups. They have so many WhatsApp groups that you can join. Ask the dumbest questions there. You get answers. Ask anything you want to ask, and you get answers. You ask about jobs, you get like 100 people posting things for you to follow the leads. You ask about how do I access my tax? How do I go? I mean, there was one, the guy had, I mean, they did a presentation during the tax season. Somebody did a presentation and everything and gave his contact details. So those things are things that we never do in Nigeria, right? You have to go and file your tax yourself, walk into a tax office and get all that stuff done. That's a cultural shock. You don't do that. Nobody expects. I mean, sometimes I was wondering, like, it's not just to go to the task office and just put the figure and all that and walk away and all that. But this, you have to be meticulous, right? You put all your data together and then they generate a figure for you. And then that's what the Internal Revenue Service gets back to you with. So those are the things there's no preparation that you can do enough to get the culture shock thing. But what you just need to do is make sure that you're open-minded, you're ready to receive information, you're ready to seek information, and that gives you an edge, in terms of getting. Now, I spoke about the International Organization for Migration. When we had that seminar, that one-day seminar, they said it would take you like between 5 years for you to really settle in. The point there is that 5 years is the minimum, right? Give yourself time. Don't beat yourself down as to the fact that you've not completely comprehended the system. But like I mentioned, if you do enough research, Debo said it. I mean, the wife said Debo, and that's basically what my wife was. My wife was the data analyst. I mean, she did everything. Sometimes I'll just stand behind her and be looking at, oh, this is the list of communities in Canada. Yeah, okay, that's nice. I'll just go back. She's there till 3 a.m. checking things out, and then she has to wake up in the morning again to get ready for work, get the kids ready and all that. There's no limit to the kind of information that you should gather. Gather as much information as you want. Now, if it's Canada, yeah, do that research based on Canada. I can tell you, I even opened one, Canada Immigration Service. Go to their site. Just do a Google search from Canada Immigration Service. Canada, I think Canada Refugee and Refugee Citizenship Canada. Go in there. Ask the dumbest questions in the search box. You get responses. You get links that will lead you to something. Now, like I said, I mean, this you can do on your own, right? You can do these things by yourself. You can also send and get a consultant, and even the consultant to use, because most Nigerians are falling prey of this one. They go and they use some people, pay monies, and they don't get anywhere. Now, if you need to use a consultant, it's in that website. They have a list of consultants that is approved by the Canadian government. Don't go looking for somebody else, and by the time you get your fingers burnt, and you come back and say, "Oh, look, I got my money swindled by." So go into that site. They have list of consultants. They have everything in there, and I'm sure the same thing applies for the US, for Australia, for the UK. So don't take any information for granted. Take as much information as you can get, and then when you come in, like Kosho Talk we were talking about, you will definitely get it. But give yourself space to receive it. A lot of things, workplace, like you just mentioned, workplace. I mean, normally you will expect that a friend of yours, you just call you, oh boy, I did for your gate. come see me. You know, you like tell your supervisor or your manager, I just let me see that friend. Let me just go see them.
Then you
They
disappear.
don't do that. You don't even do that. You can't even afford to do that, right? And there are a few little things like that that you need to drop. The things that are Nigerian, you need to drop. Let me say this thing. I am very, very pro getting as many Nigerians in as much as possible, right? I did a little research. You know, India last year, they had 118,000 Indians come in. They make up 27% of the immigrants. Nigeria is fourth on that list after China and Afghanistan. Nigeria, we had only 22,000 coming last year, 2022. That was 5.05%. That's nothing. The Indian community here is a pressure group. You can't treat them anyhow. You can't treat them. So for me, I would really love as much Nigerians to come in, because that number gives you an advantage in terms of pushing through things, right? Not being put down. I don't know if you know of this story about some Indian students who came in and all that. They came in with some falsified documentation and eventually got found out, and they were going to send them back. Now, on the day, I'm sure Debo and Abi would testify to this, on the day the Minister of Immigration was speaking and gave them some leeway, I pointed to my wife, I said, see the people around him, about 6 or 7 people behind him, they were all Indians. Are you saying that those guys will not have put some pressure on him to say, look, can we give this guy some leeway? You know, for me, I don't have that much information though, but I wouldn't say that the people didn't know about what kind of process they came in with. It's not possible. You probably know, if you're educated to a point, you probably know some things that were done, you know, but they're giving them some leeway because of their numbers. So I am for getting as many people to come in as much as possible, helping anybody. But the point is, I can't do anything for anybody unless you do it for yourself. You need to be sure that this is what you want to come and do, you know. And then, you know, of course, like we talked about, you come in prepared to get whatever shock you want to get from the system. But move on. That's the key thing. Move on.
Thank you, Seki. So I just wanted to ask you this question, Seki. So assuming that somebody watching today and is interested in coming to Canada, would you help to give the person the right information and the support that they would need?
No.
Okay.
So that's a shock answer, right? Now, the reason why I'm saying this, and this is basically the reason why I've said all that I've said today, and we've said this, do your research. You have to have a conviction. First and foremost, you know that this is what you want to do, right? And then we've said it here 1,001 times. I know people that have sent to consultant, especially the consultant that helped us, like, okay, you know what? I'll talk to the consultant first. Do you want to take this guy? Do you want to see what this guy has? I said, yes, okay. I sent the number and they connect themselves. I don't get a feedback. I don't even know what's going on after that point. I don't even know what's going on. So I'm left in limbo until maybe like a year or 6 months after the person comes back and say, you know what, I really want to start off this process again. But I didn't know you stopped. I just linked you up to somebody. Now that's what I'm saying.
Or they use somebody else.
Or they use somebody else. So if you want to go with somebody else, if you want to go with somebody else, let me know. Okay, you know what, I decided to go with this person. I'm not getting anything from this person. I'm just doing it because I want to help. Now, if you don't, like Debo said, he did it all by himself. You don't have to go with a consultant. The website is full of resources. All you want to ever do, once you make up your mind that this is what you want to do, go to the website. Now, you come in. By the time you come in, by the time you get your visa, that's where you get in. I think the International Organization for Migration comes in and everything. That helps you and everything to try and get you to prepared to come in. But get into the website. It gives you everything you want to know. Whatever you need to understand in the process, it's in the website. You know, I can always direct you to somebody, but I won't be there. I'm not, that's not my specialty. I'm into logistics and supply chain. I don't do that. But I can always link you up to it. So let me tell you something. My wife, because of the kind of detail that she had in the course of our process, do you know the company that kind of like the consultant that got us in gave her a job immediately? It was like 2 weeks after we landed. They were so impressed with the way she was, you know, the information she gathered, the questions she was asking, that they offered her a job there. She was there for like 6 months before she moved on to other things. So you need to have that information base. If you don't have it, nobody can help you. Nobody can help you beyond you wanting to help yourself and get into the process. Thank you.
Fantastic. Abilo, just 1 minute, just give me a second. I just want to reiterate what Seki said, because that was going to be the next question I was going to ask. So assuming somebody wants to relocate to Canada, for example, what would be the steps? And you're saying, go to the website. They have ample information. They have even government approved agents you can use. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Seki. Abilo, you wanted to say something?
Yes, I probably would say, so my answer would be a little different. Same question you asked will just be because I'm an empath, I probably would think, what would I have liked someone to tell me or do for me just before I made the decision, And one of the things I would say is, apart from pointing them to the resources that can help, be an open book. One thing I will do is always ask people, why do you want to move? Because a couple of friends, we become indirect consultants because you have now moved. They always want to ask, I'm interested in okay, why do you want to come? And it's not a question of knocking it down. It's why. Find your why. When you find your why, I always ask, how much money do you have? Because you always do need, you need that basket to just hold you, because you never just know what the time between when you have a job and when you get the job is. The why, because if you close up all your options from where you are coming. When I was coming, a lot of people advised me, why don't you get sabbatical from your office? I said no. And you know why I did that? If I didn't come here with the will of, I've got to make it work, I'll know that I have a backup plan. So, it will be this or that. But I really didn't have. Now, if I don't make it work here, I don't have any other option when I go back to Nigeria. I would still have to start from scratch, So you need to find your why, and you need to come here with some good amount of money. Whatever the website tells you need, put some extra on top of it, because you don't know what the space and time between when you will find a job, between when you come and when you find a job is. You need money to survive. Here, the environment is not so forgiving. People are working, it's fast-paced, every dollar counts. So you cannot, luckily, or if you are blessed to come, you have family who will help you. After a while, it gets tiring because nobody is prepared to carry on those burdens, which is why I would say things like money. You need to come here with a good amount of money when you come.
Thank you, Abilo. I just want to ask this question. I have heard a lot of people would sell their houses in Nigeria, sell cars, sell everything, burnt the bridges in terms of fallback resources. And then they come overseas and they find out that it wasn't what they thought it was. They didn't quite actualize the purpose for which they came. So would you advise people to sell valuable assets? Wouldn't it be nice for people to just have that vex money? The idea of the vex money, just in case things don't work out. Please, I still have something that can fall back on in my home country.
I think people who will think that way, if you have somebody who's coming here and they're already in their 50s, 60s.
Yeah, I was going to ask that.
Those are I think then it would make sense to me. Do you get? Because I know when I was moving, some of the things my uncle would say is, you're young, this is actually the best time to do. Don't wait till you get to a stage where, because I just think once you hit a certain age, life is actually not, you can always make it, don't get me wrong, but life is just not always as forgiving as when you hit a certain age. So it depends on how much liquidity you have when you are coming. If it's enough to sustain you when you first start.
So for how long? So just apologize now, Abilo, but when you say liquidity and how long, like how much do I need to have? So the liquidity that I need, would it be able to sustain me for 1 year, paying my rent, the day-to-day grind, transport?
6 months is a good picture. 1 year is nice. I don't know how much, because of exchange rates, I don't really know how much you get. So I'm just trying to be realistic. Even what the Canadian government gives you on their website as advice, I think, is to cover you for a period of 6 months.
3.
Am I right?
6. 3 or 6.
Yeah.
Is it 6 months? Yeah. So 6 months is probably what I would say.
Okay. Now, Ibi, do you have anything?
Sorry, Debo wanted to say something.
Okay.
Yeah, so real quickly, the idea of selling property in Nigeria just because you might be relocating to Canada or you're retiring, you're moving here, you really just have to understand what you're doing. 3-4 years ago, it might have been a good time to buy in Canada. I'm sure even in the UK now, interest rates are maybe 5% plus. So interest rates are going up, not just in Canada, not just in the UK, in the US as well. So right now, it's not a buyer's market. In fact, we're expecting another increase in interest rates this week in Canada. So anybody just coming here just to buy a house and pay mortgage, probably not a good time to buy. Now, if you are a bank MD and you have 500 million naira, and that's maybe equivalent to $3-4, $500,000, and you believe you can either buy the house outright or pay 75% of your mortgage, well, of course, then fine, put all that money and buy a house. But if you're struggling, or maybe I want to use the word struggling, or you just have maybe 50 to 100 million naira and you only have 10% of the value of the property in Canada, in terms of cash. You really just need to do your math. You don't even have to buy at all. You can rent. Yes, so you might decide not to sell. Even if you do sell, you don't even have to buy in Canada. You can rent in Canada, go to Rwanda to buy, go to Kenya to buy, go to Portugal to buy. You just have to be global minded. There's Nigerians aggressively investing in Rwanda right now. Some people don't know that, but people have started doing that 3-4 years ago, building flats and townhomes in Rwanda. So everything doesn't have to be in the country you're moving to. It could be in another country. So far, you have the information.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Debo, for that information. Nigerians are investing in Rwanda. So, Ibi?
Yeah. Before I answer that question, I wanted to answer one other question that you asked before you went to Seki, which was around the work culture. And I'll just say to anybody who's traveling or relocating, I think one of the things that is so different from who we are and where we are now is punctuality. This is my current job I'm doing. My boss still said to me, even if you are the highest flyer in this company, we'll get rid of you faster if you're a late comer. And when I say late coming, I mean 1 minute, 2 minutes late. The spirit of late coming and the Western world, they don't work at all. So if one can start to practice it before they actually leave, it's better. But you would have a culture shock with timekeeping here, because it's a no-no. It's a complete no-no. So that's that bit. But around selling assets to travel, I think, I'll just stay with Abilo's husband as well, that it really all depends on the age it is that you're coming. I think the UK, that this is where I am, 10 years ago, yes, it was a completely different ball game, but the times have changed so much, and it depends on the person's skill set as well. If you think you're going to be able to get a really good role and to be able to progress quite quickly and to begin to make a good income. And when I say good income, I'm talking about 60, 70, 80K and above in the UK. Then perhaps, so somebody who's a consultant in Nigeria and the gulf of, success is not too far, then fine. But if you're already in your 40s and you're coming here to start from scratch, or maybe an entry level role, I wouldn't recommend it at all, because I think the life in itself is a marathon, is not a sprint. And if you're thinking about 20, 30 years from now, I don't know many people who want to spend the rest of their lives here. I think it's just safer to have something back to fall back on, depending on if you want to go back home. Because, for me, I find that living in the UK, as you get older, even though medically it's a better place to be, but to be in a community or society where you can add value, I think being back home, I don't know, but I feel like, we still value our elders there. There's a space for them. There's a mentoring space for them. They get invited to the high table. There's parties. They can do a lot more than here, where the older you get, you kind of get pushed into the, into the darker side of society. Ageism is very real here. And, the older you are, you can get forgotten, so I wouldn't recommend that people who have 20 years work life left should sell up. I wouldn't recommend it at all.
Fantastic. Now I want to ask another very crucial question. Seki, you relocated to Canada with your wife. Abilo, your husband and you came together in the sense that you had made up your mind that you were coming. So he came to, just quickly sort some things out, and then you joined him. Well, there is this whole culture where our men don't like joining their families. The wife goes abroad with the children, and she faces all of these onslaught of situations.
Change.
And it is a very, very tough experience. So what would you say about somebody who is planning to send his family abroad and says, well, I will send my wife and children to relocate and I'll be in Nigeria sending money? Seki.
Well, it could be, it's basically, we can't generalize, right? So, but it has to do with individual circumstances, right? Some people would rather do that because that's what they can afford at the time. Or I know a couple of people who have very good jobs in Nigeria, and because they want their kids and their family to be here, they move them over here. They can't leave the jobs. Like I know a friend of mine who is a general manager of a company. He's doing well. The company is thriving, but he doesn't want his kids to be here because the wife had said that, look, I can do anything to get my children away from Nigeria. Let them move away. So his angle to that was move them there, move them to Canada, and I stay here. The wife is schooling here currently. So, I mean, you can always come in and see them. Now, where, in terms of the challenges, like you mentioned, I mean, you're very, very, very closed in, in describing the challenges. The challenges are enormous, right? Because you're bringing the wife here. It's better where yourself and your spouse are here together. I mean, things kind of like it's a lot better than if the wife is just here alone, going through all the difficulties, all the challenges that has to come, and then she's the only one taking care of it. It puts a lot more pressure on her, right? Even though, yeah, you're sending money, but I mean, what does that do in terms of emotional capacity to take all that stuff in? So and there are other situations like maybe for now, that's what you can afford to do. You just want to be able to send them away, and then you find your way to come in and all that. Some people do it the reverse. They come in first, and then their kids join them later. I have that scenario, lots of that scenario. It's all dependent on what your immediate situation is. But for me, it was something that was not on the table. If I were to move, I would move with my whole family, and that's what we did. I mean, I can't even leave outside my family for 1 month. That's the truth. I'm a family-oriented person. I can't even leave outside my family for a month. How much more letting them either move or me move earlier? It won't happen. So for me, that was key. So it all depends on what the situation is, with each individual. I mean, I wouldn't suggest it.
Thank you, Seki. You're a wise man. Abilo and Debo.
I think for the most part, for people I have seen who do it, the dynamic in their home has always been the same. The man has always worked, has always brought the money. The wife was just taking care of the kids. So when she was the only thing that was different for her here, she still wasn't paying the bills. She still wasn't responsible for the school fees. She was just also schooling, like she said, and she came here with the kids. And well, they didn't need her as much as the little ones would because they were a lot older. So for their family dynamic with what her husband was an MD in a very popular bank in Nigeria. So for them, I guess it worked. So you can't really generalize and say it's always nice to have the family unit together. Then again, there are certain things like how long have you been married? We're a young family. It just doesn't make sense for us to be in separate parts of the world working, and I'm raising the kids, but the kids won't know you, especially if they're in those formative years. So there are just different things to weigh, when it comes to that. How much of help do you think your spouse will require to raise your kids, do you think she's a hands-on parent? Can she, because we both have our strengths. She a hands-on parent. Do you think that she's sufficient enough by herself to raise the kids without your help? And this is in a situation where it's a choice. It's a different thing if one man, if they're actually separated and all that, and that's a different question altogether. But if it's a married unit, a man and a woman together, there are too many angles to come at it from. So I cannot really say it's a bad idea. It might not be a bad idea if the man feels that his job options are not going to be better for him if he's going to move and he can provide and he can, weather the cost. So if the husband and wife are in agreement, that's a different thing. The wife travels and now sees a different side that she was not prepared for. She's like, hey, I'm struggling. No, I don't think I can handle this. You guys come together again, regroup, and decide.
Sorry, Abi, just going to ask a question. If Ibi would allow me to do, what would you say about the emotional part of it? I mean, it's okay. I mean, if she can cope, but what about the emotional part? Is that sustainable?
For a standard Nigerian marriage, where it's not like here where the woman can't live without that. I'm just putting it as cultural African marriage. I think she will be okay. I think this is me speaking though. Some women, it depends. So a reason why I can't just say this is it. It actually just depends on what the relationship is at home, So I can't say. Debo can probably answer that better. I probably couldn't have survived, because I needed somebody who had all the information, doing the research and all of that.
I think in the past year with the devaluation of the Naira specifically, it's not sustainable for any man to be sending money to Canada for like 2 years straight. First of all, the average rent in Toronto right now, if you quantify it in Naira, you're spending about 15 million Naira a year on rent. You haven't thought of transportation, feeding, education, clothing, and all the other things you have to buy. How many people are making 15 million Naira a year in Nigeria? Some of them would send their wives, you don't know when you're going to get a job. Sometimes it takes 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, 8 months, 9 months. So if you assume that because she's in Canada and she's good looking and she's intelligent, she's going to get a job in 2 weeks, that is just not the reality. So if you plan on all these falsehoods and expectations that the Canadian government is just going to hand you a job within 2 months of arrival, only God knows the future, right? So living and sending Naira to Canada is really just a no-no for me. I mean, you can do it for a year or two, but anything beyond that is just not sustainable. I think if you're earning
with the present economic situation.
Yes, with the present economic situation. If you're earning dollars, obviously, it's a different thing. But even at that, then that leads into Abi's conversation about parenting, formative years, and all of that. So anything beyond 2 years for me, personally, is not sustainable.
Well, this is a very, very touchy topic. I was talking to one guy a long time ago, and he said that he's an Irishman, and he said that he wonders why, because in Ireland, what happens is that the women come, and the guy was like, he didn't understand. For him, the process of the men sending their wives to come and they stay back in Nigeria, it's like pimping their wives out, that kind of way, because it's not easy. And there are, this is just my personal opinion. It would work initially, okay? It will work initially, but there are the long-term effects.
Exactly.
There are the long-term effects. Initially, it's working, but there are the long-term effects. For me, personally, I feel that if you have a fantastic job in Nigeria,
keep your family there.
Stay with your children in Nigeria. Because the ramifications of staying apart is much more tragic than the sound educational foundation that you said you couldn't give your children in Nigeria. A lot of people are crying A lot of people wouldn't tell you what they're going through. A lot of people would not tell you the impact of a father not being present in the life of a child. Now, this is not to say there's some women that are single parents and they have to parent their children on their own. And I'm in no way, I'm not in any way, against that, because sometimes when the child knows that it is just me and my mother, then the dynamics is different. Exactly. But I'm saying that if you think that you would stay in Nigeria and let your wife and your children live abroad, you got another thing coming. You would lose your family, lose your wife, lose your children. It would only take the grace of God. And now this is not to say that it doesn't work. It works. If the love, the cooperation is there, and the man would come back and forth, keep coming. However, visiting is different.
It's not the same. Yeah, it's not the same thing. Yeah.
Because sometimes the children can play up, but you will find that sometimes your children would just play up enough. I mean, they play good enough to just. Sometimes you find that after a while that your children I'm looking for the right word to use. They just put up with you if you're going to stay for 1 month, they put up with you for 1 month. If you're going to stay for 2 months, they put up with you after that time, everything changes. So my advice is, if you want to, I usually don't give advice on my program. I just allow the guests. But this is something that I feel very strongly about. That a lot of families are broken, a lot of children are broken, are hurting because of this. Okay, enough of me and enough of my wisdom. So we've asked Seki and all of us. And Ibi, do you have anything to say to that? Do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I definitely would say that. I do remember one time where my one of my previous churches, my pastor's wife said she doesn't know how we Africans do it, and that we always downplay what exactly it is that we're doing, but that to move countries, to change, to move away from your people, from your food, from your culture, from your environment, from your your routine and everything, and go to a new place and start from scratch, that we always try to make it look easy, but it's not easy. It's a very difficult thing to do. And for the people who do it and do it well, she always does her heart to them, and I think that's the thing that you're trying to say, which is that we downplay the move that we make when we take those risks to change our location in that way. And maybe we do it for good reasons, but then sometimes we put the money before everything else. And I mentioned it before, we downplay the emotional, things, the relationship, the spiritual needs that we have as people. And we just feel like, we can cope, we can make it. Maybe Nigeria, we use those kind of, braggadocious terms like, Nigeria. Crazy, like, being away from our spouses and raising our children alone. Just the toll of the school run alone is enough to break a woman down. Then, she's having to do with, prepare them for school is another chore on its own. It's another 1.5 hours in a day, getting them to school, and then she having to run to work and, do her work like, she never had any of those other stumbling blocks. Like, look at a woman's life in the UK, like, a hurdle race, every step she takes, every hour, there's a hurdle that she has to jump, over, and then doing the same thing in the evening again. And doing that, you haven't talked about homework, you haven't talked about, extracurricular activities, just one person handling all of that for 2-3 children. And then we wonder why the relationship, is breaking down. And I personally feel that most people who do that, I'm sure there's an exception, but most men who want to send their children away, do it for other reasons than finance. There's other reasons why they do it. And, 10, 20 years down the line, the relationship is in shambles. So we really need to think about it again as a marathon and not a sprint. It's a life journey. So I don't recommend sending this family and staying back. So I completely agree with you. I think
Perfect.
everybody should do this as well.
Perfect. So in this conversation, we have talked about everything we set out to talk about. I'll just look at it here. We've talked about, give me a second now. I'm just going to quickly go through my notes. I promised that we're going to talk about the important questions you should ask yourself before leaving. I talked about the importance of research. I talked about, we talked about the actionable steps you can take to start, what's it called now? To start relocating confidently. And the actionable steps actually include starting from the website, checking the website and stuff like that, checking the website, and then you would see information and the consultants that have been recommended by the Canadian authority. And we've also talked about the common mistakes to avoid. If you're watching me for the first time, my name is Ibinabo Enebi, and you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, Ibinabo Enebi. You can follow me on my social media handles, Ibinabo Enebi, YouTube, Ibinabo Enebi, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, on my LinkedIn, on my Facebook profile and page. Next time on Ibi Speaks, we're going to talk about the impact. We're going to talk about the child holistically. So, well, let me put it this way. So you're bringing your child abroad. What are the questions you need to ask yourself? We're going to have a parent advocate. We're going to have an early child expert. A lot of people say that they relocate because of their children. Is it a wise decision to make? Is it a wise decision to make? Is it that some children are better off understanding themselves, knowing what they want in life before you pull them out of the country? Because we've sent a lot of children abroad and they have refused to go to school. You're paying school fees and they are not in school. So these are very, 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 very tough decisions. And like I said, we're going to be dealing with the underbelly of being a migrant in another country. Let me see, there's a question here. What about the women leaving? But, okay, sorry, somebody asked the question. So what about the women leaving? But she has grown-up children already. So her going is for economic reasons. We just spoke about leaving your younger children.
Wait.
Okay. Lean, if you're there, do you want to, guys, can I just add 10 more minutes to this conversation, if you don't mind?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah,
Okay,
sure.
10 more minutes. Lean, if you're here, would you want to ask the question so that my guests can actually understand what you're saying? If you're here, can you just indicate by raising up your hand so that I can unmute you?
Already on mute.
Is Lean here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay,
Can you hear
Lean.
me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Evening.
Very wonderful conversation we've been having here.
Thank
My
you.
question is, of course, it's a simple one. You have grown-up children already, but due to what is happening in the country, just think of, going just to make some money, But we just spoke about being with children. My kids are grown. So if you're thinking of other people like me that want to go just to go and make money for their kids to be here, what do you think, or what the advice do you give to such people?
How old are the children?
Oh, quite grown. The least is about 15. The small is about 15.
Well, that's not much grown for 15.
Lynn.
But,
Okay. Seki.
no. So yeah, 15. Well, that's
It's still too
teenage
tender.
years, right? Yeah,
It's
that's
tender.
teenage years, and then very, very, very delicate, I'll say. But well, that's the least of it. So yourself or your husband decides that for you it's best for you to go, then he stays back, and then he stays back with a 15-year-old in Nigeria, right? Is that what you mean? And
They're
then why
older
you come
kids,
over?
so not just on the 15-year-old. They're older kids too.
Yeah, I know. So
So
those
what's the
older ones are
oldest?
back in yeah.
the oldest is about 24.
Okay, so they stay back in Nigeria, but you move abroad, right? You go abroad to work, to get
Something
some
like that.
economic.
Yes.
Okay, and then your husband is back there, or you're single parent.
No, my husband is here.
Okay, so your husband is there. He's there to take care of the kids, which makes a lot of difference, right? Because the kids are grown, he's still there, and then of course you want to be able to go abroad to make some money and then come back and all that, which is a little bit different from what we had said initially, because then we're looking at kids, the wife and the kids moving abroad, and then the husband alone staying back. But if the husband is here and you have kids of 24 and the least being 15, I don't think there's too much of an impact that would really change the dynamics. But like I said, it takes two. Well, I won't, let me withdraw that. It doesn't really. So for single parents, they can take care of the kids, right? But where you have your husband and all that, you know that different personalities, right? So what you would allow your husband might not allow it, or what your husband would allow, you will not allow. So I want a situation where you both are in sync and know that your husband and the older kids can take care of the 15-year-old, because I think that's what you're looking at. The husband and the older kids will take care of the 15-year while you move abroad and make some funds. That's, for me, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Yeah, I mean, it's a tough one, but I
It's a
think
tough one, Seki.
yeah,
I think
it's a
you're
tough
best
one. So,
answering the
Ivy, do you have
question
anything?
yourself.
Okay.
I don't think
I
don't think we
sorry.
can answer. So because you know what the situation is like. I'm so sorry. Somebody was speaking. Ivy, sorry.
No, it's fine. No, Karen.
You know what the situation is in your home. I'm just going to give you
yeah.
an example. My mom got a job, right? Single parents, not by choice. My father died. She got a job. Her youngest was 3. Her oldest was 18. We were kind of on the way to university. She got a job just in Abuja, Lagos and Abuja. But for her, she knew her kids and she knew the makeup. All of us with different personalities. How much of disappearance is enough for me that these kids will be stable? Can I do every 2 months back and forth? And she just saw that, look, it's not going to work. So she didn't take it. You and your husband probably will come together, study your kids. Is there anyone that requires 24/7 surveillance? Like if you are not there, things, you just know them best. When you and your husband make up your minds and you decide, and then how much money are you making? Is it going to make a difference in your family's finance? If both of you look at it holistically and you can now decide that, okay, the kids will be okay. When I go to work, I'll make enough money because I would like to do this, blah, blah, blah. Then go for it. But if you don't think it's going to help your family, from what has been said earlier, you can see that there's a lot of value with keeping the family unit together. It's very important. But if you think that it's going to work for your family and it's not something going to be prolonged, going to be permanent, maybe it's just a stopgap to fixing for something, then why not?
Thank you, Abilo. Ibi, do you have anything to say?
I think Abilo actually answered the question because, like she said, it's really all about the family dynamics and the traits and personality of those involved. We can theorize everything, but if the 15-year-old, okay to be left with dad and his dad able to look after the child and raise the child, with the right values and ethos, who everybody at home. And so I think that's really the best lens to look at it from. But it's a difficult one, I think, as well, because in as much as we're talking about children, also we also have a life of our own as well. And at some point we have to think about our future, and our future selves are counting on us today to prepare. I look at it and say, my 70-year-old is counting on me at 40 to prepare for her, because I'm really going to be upset if I get there and I realize that I haven't put things in place for my 70-year-old to be comfortable. So there's a point where you get to where you have to say, right, have I done enough to be ready for the sunset of my life? And so I think you really have to wait as well, because sometimes, let's be real, children too can, I won't say wear us down, but they have a way of, coming first in everything, which, can be detrimental to other factors of our life. So it's really, you have to wait. I think 15-year-old, is quite, big, and other parents have done it too, and the children haven't died, but the dynamics at home, and so you have to weigh everything. It depends on how far away you are from your goals as well. If you're too far away and you need to do a lot of catching up to do, maybe it's just best to do what you have to do and probably send for that 15-year-old maybe 2-3 years into the journey when the child is able to go into university. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah.
There's no right and
For
wrong answer.
the last
Dynamics
speaker, I
matter.
appreciate what she just said.
Oh, you
Lynn?
don't appreciate what
Yes.
we said.
No,
Come on.
please, no.
Lynn?
I think she had what she just spoke is what is actually, I understand, yes. Because really,
Okay.
when you have to think of the later set of you have to think of yourself.
Yeah,
You invested
true.
so much in this kid, you need to think of you. Don't
Lynn,
understand me. Yes, I'm here.
can I say something?
Okay.
Lynn, I understand what you're saying. I
Okay.
understand how you feel.
Yeah.
But let me ask you a question. Have you tried getting an online job from an international organization?
For now, if I could, I think that would be cool.
Okay. Because you see, your 15-year-old is a teenager, right?
Yeah.
And if you have that stable family hand that can help put things together, then I would say give yourself the shot. But would you be coming as often as you can?
Oh, yes.
And another thing I'm going to tell you is that
Ticket is now £1,000. So
see, I don't want to dampen your I don't want to dampen your quest.
The drive, yeah.
But I'm going to say that living, when you go abroad to work, it changes you as a person.
Okay.
It changes you. It changes the family dynamics. You have to also consider the emotional health, emotional well-being of your 15-year-old. I remember when I had to leave my child to come to school. She was living here with me, and I sent her to Nigeria so I could properly study.
How old was that child?
She was 8.
Oh.
And she had everything, people around her, but the emotional impact on her broke me. So I think that it's something that you have to think. See, it's very easy. We can't give you a clear-cut answer, because sometimes when you want to do something, the reason why you want to do something pushes you to want to do it. But I can also tell you that 15-year-old is tender.
Yeah.
That your children need you at every stage. And I think that what you can do, therefore, would be to, if you have that strong support system, if every day you and your husband will agree that you will be calling all the time, that you would call and you guys will be on top of things, give it a try. But don't do it for so long, because it changes things. That's not to say that it can't work, but it changes things. But you must.
This generation of children are so different. They are less resilient.
They're less resilient. They're exposed to you. You don't know what your presence has protected your children from.
True.
Yeah.
You don't know the person that, I don't know. Think about it. And listen, and you can do a lot for your life.
Yes.
You can still do a lot for your life. Anyway, let me not be an agony aunt, but I hope we've helped you to answer your question. And she's asking a question. Does anyone have, can we give her, I don't have any link, but is there any way that, assuming Lynn wants an international job, are there any links that she can get that would link her up with international jobs, so that at least she can?
Would that be in the UK? I mean, Ibi can help. If it's UK.
I mean, to be honest, you know what? Honestly, it's really all about skill set. And I mean, everybody knows that technology skills that are what's the most sought after in this day and age, and value add. So I honestly, let me see. There's somebody on the line here. Auntie, will you be willing for Ajimna? Oh, she's Ajimna to join because she's fresh. She just came in from Nigeria.
Okay,
last year.
so Lynn, this is your day. But Ajimna, just hold on that thought. Let me just Amanda.
Hello.
Amanda, do you want to
Good evening.
Do you want to add to this conversation? Do you want to just give me a minute? Let Ajimina answer Lynn.
Okay, I want to ask a question.
Okay.
Ajimina, please, can you come off mute and answer the question where to get online job? Because I know you know these things more than me. Oh,
she's here. She's here.
She's here, but I don't know if she's here.
She can write in the chat.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay, this is I was not prepared to say anything. But anyways, I think, first of all, like what everybody has said, a lot of research is needed. There are a lot of like online sites like Indeed, Total Jobs, and things like that. LinkedIn especially has a lot of information. So like Ibi said, it has a lot to do with like your skill sets. And like what Abilo said, first of all, identifying like what your career journey is, what your career path is, have a clear-cut idea of what you want to do, so that when you're searching, you're just not searching everywhere. And when you're speaking to people for ideas, you're not just all over the place. So it's best for you to, first of all, have a clear understanding of what you want, then see whether there are jobs like available internationally for that. And if they aren't, upskill, So Total Jobs indeed are like two that come to mind, and LinkedIn, of course. So yeah. But just be online, do your research.
My question, what I wanted to ask you was that, those kind of jobs that you get, I know people that work from Nigeria, do they specify that your location doesn't matter on them?
To be honest, like I've heard some people that got jobs from Nigeria, but one thing that has been very common with that information is they have very high skills. Like you have high skills to the point that like they sort of like break protocol to a point. It's mostly people in tech that I hear do that, mostly people in tech that I've seen or that I've heard that I like work remotely from Nigeria, so that's it. Otherwise, a lot of them require for you to be in the country that you're applying from. Yes, there's that. Yeah. But there's a possibility as well. So you could just give it the best shot and do your research. Yeah.
One thing that a lot of us here are doing now, which is, and age is not even a factor, everybody's doing one course or the other. Life abroad is about continuous learning. You never stop learning. My mom went to nursing school at 60, so it's never too late to learn a new skill. I'm even joining a boot camp for front-end software development to add to my, I'm a business analyst, and I'm adding that to my repertoire. Because as the game is changing, AI is coming. It's almost like you have to be ahead of the game. You have to keep on running. It's almost like the way I see it. Somebody's chasing us from the back, and everybody's all running. And the way you kind of skill is how far you can run away from the sledgehammer coming behind. Because I'm telling you, it's like you're always running. Have you seen those videos online where somebody's coming from the back and pursuing you? You have to. There's nothing like, hey, you finish studying this one, next one. What is learning? Just be learning. Just keep learning. So, go on Coursera. There are lots of free courses there. There are lots of, what's the name of this website again? This Stafford. Yeah, Udemy as well. Lots of free courses for you.
Even Future Learn. Future Learn is also good.
Yeah. Stanford University also has a very powerful computer and science course as well that teaches you the 101 of all of that. A lot of people who tend to break into software start from there. But you can't, even at 50, 60, you can't stop learning. You really have to just really study. That's the only way out. And once you study and you get these very rare skills, then you can begin to, apply for these jobs. And you can't say, like Jenna said, you have to be above and beyond. Even if you're in the country, to get the big money, you have to be above and beyond now.
Okay. I hope, Linda, Debo, do you have anything to add to the conversation?
No, I think everyone has touched on all the press reports.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So, Lynn, I hope that helped.
Yeah, it did.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And Amanda, thank you for your patience.
Thank you. We all came here to learn. Thank you so much for all the knowledge that we've gotten so far. I'm just new in the whole game. I've started with research, and I was opportune and I should say privileged to join this meeting, and I've really learned a lot. So I thank you, and I thank all the speakers so far. But when you were talking with the last person, I had even if some things were getting clearer, but I wanted to be exact in what I want, because I said I'm new. Now, I'm actually a single mom with twins.
Okay.
And I don't want to leave them. I want to relocate with them. And because I'm a single mom, I'm really concerned of getting a job as soon as possible when I get there. So right now, I've not really streamlined on what I want. So I wanted recommendation for a single mom relocating, how difficult, or should I go first before bringing them in? And they're already 15 and I'm 40. Then 2, I have a background in sciences, zoology to be specific. What course should will you recommend also for if I'm going to get a job, start building maybe courses so that I can be fit to apply for these international jobs? Or should I just turn away from the background and face something that is more lucrative? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Amanda. So my distinguished panelists.
How old are your kids?
15.
15.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, twins, girls.
I would say wherever you go, carry your children.
Yeah, I'll say that too. So the thing is, like I said, it all depends, because coming here for school, international students pay a whole lot, right? So if you want to come in here and you want to school, you can get that allowance to bring your kids along. Because like I told you, there's a lady who came in a few months back. She has her 2 teenage kids with her. You can do that, but it's about the resources, right? Resources. And then, like I said, we've said this without holding back. Research. What would you want to do? I mean, you have a degree in zoology, right? I think you said zoology.
Zoology.
Yeah. So you have that degree. What do you do currently? Are you working with that degree, or you're working in another field? And what, now the reason why I say I emphasize on the website is they have a list of jobs that I would say, let me use the word trending, right? Lists of jobs that you can go into immediately. They need those people, they need those skills in Canada, for instance. Now, what you do in preparation is when you go in there and see those lists of jobs, which one tallies with what you can do or what you can start to get the what's it called, the education for, you need to start studying for. There has to be a switch. I don't know much about zoology being popular, a course in Canada, for instance, but I know that you can also switch courses. You can move to some other place. There's the PSW thing, personal support worker thing. It's in high demand right here, nurses and all that. So if it's something that you can switch to, start to do something, because there are relatives of mine that I had to tell their wives, look, you know what? And they've actually done it. They did a course in PSW. They're in Nigeria, but they did it. It's a UK certified stuff. She just sent me the whole list of certificates that she just got. Now that will help, because when you decide to want to apply, that also plays a good part in giving you a good leverage to come in. So you have to do that. It's important. Don't make the mistake of just because you need to move, I need to just get up and move. That is a no-no. Make a conscious effort to get the information you need, and also to get some advantage in terms of that program or whatever that you want to go into that country to do. That's very key. So I would really appreciate if you first and foremost sit down and determine what exactly, or first and foremost, like I said, the site is there. If it's Canada,
what's the site?
Canada Immigrations, Refugee and Citizens Canada. Go in there, ircc.com. Go in there to give a list of what's happening, what's jobs that are being considered right now. Once you get in there, you'll be able to, that will first of all guide you as to what you want to, because you can look at, because when I was coming, my wife was a principal applicant. She came in as a federal skilled worker, right? So I had to look at what would suit me. I was into, you know what I was in Nigeria. So when I came in here, I had to go in and study supply chain management and logistics, because it kind of like aligned with what I was doing back there in Nigeria, right? And that's why as soon as I was done, I got a job with DHL. And as a matter of fact, DHL and the company I work for were almost like struggling to keep me, because I had that background, and of course it showed, you know, in my work day and all that. So it's really key. Do a lot of research for yourself, get the information that you want, then make inquiries. Do that inquiry. Speak loud. Speak to people. Ask people what, how you can move on from that point to the next point.
Thank you very much, Seki. Debo, do you have anything to add to?
Yeah, I think we've said it all. Just determine if your skill set is transferable. Look at all the options. Don't just take a leap and come in, because the reality for most immigrants, whether it's UK, US, is most people start a level or two below, lower than where they were in their home countries. You are a manager in your home country. You may come in as an assistant manager or an analyst, and you know everybody writes about it. It's a known fact. So just because you're coming abroad, yes, it is supposedly greener pastures, but sometimes you do have to start from a lower level. And when you are able to determine what your job prospects are, that would guide you into determining if it's the best decision to bring your family along with you. So
fantastic. I want to read some comments I have on Facebook. Somebody says here, the quickest job to get is still in the healthcare sector. And it says here, in UK, indeed, total jobs helps a lot. So that's it. So, yeah. And Amanda, I hope this helps.
Sorry, one thing I know that people are failing to realize as they look for jobs sometimes, because you will hear, I know we've had some friends who have started some things and they've left it. So it might be lucrative, but are you a good fit for that industry? Because your personality is also important. I know that we are heavy on, we're actually here. Look, number one thing, let's be honest, we are abroad because we want to make good money, you know, but in the long run, when you think about yourself, and like Ibi said, when you're what your 70-year-old self will be happy with, are you laying a good foundation, you know, even mentally? So are you prepared for the healthcare job? Are you an emotional person? Are you scared at the sight of blood? Then maybe you should be looking somewhere else. Are you an analytical thinker? If not, then maybe the tech industry or the what other industries are there that just need analytical thinkers are. So those are some things that you need to be able to balance out. And then what are the jobs that are? So there's a long line to look at when you are looking for those things too. Don't forget yourself. You want to make money, I know that, but because mental health is becoming more prominent these days, there are many nuggets and many aspects of it that actually contribute to a lot of breakdown somewhere down the line. So don't go and do a job, especially if you are in your 40s, 50s. I don't think you should be doing a job that you cannot connect with personally. That's my thinking.
Okay. Oh, thank you so much. Let me see if I have a comment, if I have any comments on YouTube. Where are the comments? Comments, where are you? Live chat. Let me see. I can't see my live chats now. Oh, okay. Someone said they dropped some comments on the live chat, but I can't find it. Okay. So we're still going to leave. Ibi left a link for the UK jobs, and I'm going to post it on the Facebook.
That's the link. Yeah, that's the link for the UK job shortages. The official list of the.
Yes. Yeah. So Ibi, I want to please kindly just send it to to the Facebook
Live stream.
Yes, live stream as well. That would be very nice. Listen, we've had I've done 2 hours. I just want to say thank you so much for giving your time to this conversation. And listen, if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, please subscribe. By subscribing to my YouTube channel, you support me and you help my channel to grow. And when you subscribe, kindly leave a comment in the comment section. And please, if this video helped you, share it with your friends, with your families. You don't know who this can help. I also have some videos that I've done last year about relocating to America and also about sending your child to Canada. I had a specialist come talk, and there's it's very insightful. So next time on Ibi Speaks, I'm going to have educational consultants speak on what it is like having to send your children, having to relocate abroad with your kids. I would have the kind of things you should ask yourself, how best you can place your children in the right schools. There's a lot to unpack even in that conversation, and I would have the posters out. So if you want to be a part of that program, follow me on my Instagram, Ibinabo Enebi. Follow me on my Facebook page and profile, Ibinabo Enebi. And the comments are here. Someone says, it's such a joy to be here. Great use of my toddlers in that time. I appreciate everyone here today. Thanks so much. I gained a lot. God bless. There's quite a few. Listen, just thank you so much. And any last words? Any final?
I need more people coming to Canada. So do your research, get in. Let's populate this place, because we can get what's called the pressure group. We can form a very good pressure group when we have the numbers. So as many people as needed, come in. That's it.
Okay, Abilo.
I would say well done for this. And sometimes you think you need to be in a boot camp. This is actually some of the resources that can help you make up your mind. Yeah. So thank you for doing things like this, just to help people sort of decide where they want to lie. Debo, do you want anything to say?
Yeah, same here. I think it's good to have different perspectives, and now with the current economic conditions, people are pondering whether to move or not, and it's a conversation that's very necessary. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Seki, please connect with Abilo and Debo.
Of course.
Abilo, Seki is my brother.
Yeah, they're in the same field actually, supply chain. Did you hear that?
Yeah.
Debo.
Yes.
Seki, I have known Seki.
I'm in Kitchener, Ontario.
Okay.
Okay.
We're in Milton, Ontario.
Oh, and then I work in Milton. My work is in Milton.
Please keep in touch. Look, Seki, I don't carry them put for your hand.
No, we don't worry. We did. You.
What's I do?
This is my sister from way back. She's a nice person. I can tell you that for sure. I mean, I support
my brother.
what you do. Yeah.
I was her flower girl. So.
Oh wow!
She's my niece. She's my niece.
Awesome.
Thank you. I beg, help me look after them for me.
No, we did.
Yeah. So I just want to say thank everyone for joining us today. I deeply appreciate your time. And
wait, Ibi, hold on, Ibi. This one where you get needs, all these needs and all that. You like clearly don't old though. They don't look it. You don't look it because you get the other one. Ibi is your niece.
She's my niece,
and Ibi is your niece.
Abilo is my niece. Just my Abilo used to be so much in awe of me like this. Abilo, I was Abilo's fashion icon.
She's still in awe of you. Don't worry, I can see it in her eyes.
I am.
No, you're a fantastic person. Honestly, you're good. You're a fantastic person.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it now. I really do appreciate it. And thank you so much. It's been a very insightful conversation. And join us next time for another interesting conversation. And Ibi, Seki, Abilo, and Debo, thank you very much. And I'll call you. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
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 Bye. Take care.
Okay.